know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop.
We don't hate you. We don't hate those of you who are white. We just want to stay black. We love my color. I just love myself.
Brother Malcolm. Brother Malcolm. Brother Malcolm. Yeah. You all right? Yes.
Minister Malcolm, they're ready for you.
All right.
Okay.
I'll be right here when you get back.
I know you will, brother.
Good evening, Minister Malcolm. Thank you for being here.
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Alaikum salam.
Please don't take this the wrong way, but what are you doing here? It's kind of implausible. Most people say you're supposed to be dead, and yet here you are, in the flesh, sitting right in front of me.
When you say something is implausible, it means the person is being unreasonable or failing to convince. And since I am being neither of the two, I would have to disagree. However, I believe you're referring to my very existence.
Yes.
Well, brother, if you don't mind me asking, where is your faith based? Or for lack of better terms, what is your religious beliefs?
Christianity.
So it's safe to say you read your Bible?
Yes, I have. I wouldn't be labeled scholar.
Well, you'll read in your Bible that it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Later you read that that same Word was made flesh and dwelt among the people. Then Jesus is killed by his own people. Just because the body departed from the people does not mean the Word is nullified.
Are you saying you're a spirit?
I'm saying I kept my word. I prefer to start the interview if you don't mind.
Yes, of course. Well, Minister Malcolm, what do you think of the present racial climate, and do you think things have changed since you've been, I'll say, away?
Seemingly, people would probably say that things have changed or come a long way. I think that Negroes, or should I say New Age Negroes, have been conditioned to think that things have changed. This usually happens when we see things like our first black president in Barack Obama, or the great Dr. King with a memorial in our nation's capital, or even the first black Muslim sister in Congress. And while all these things are good, don't be led astray to think that things have changed. Progress is not change. We still see Negroes such as Trayvon Martin, or Philando Castile, Eric Garner, Freddie Gray, Sandra Bland, Tamir Rice, the list goes on, being gunned down by those who swore to protect and serve every American citizen. I think if we really want to see change in this country, then we must remove the hypocrites from Congress, from our judicial system, our educational system, and even our financial institutions. And if we're really willing to deal with the real enemy, then we must break the legs of hypocrisy in our own temples. One way you start that process is by using your voice and your vote. But if only 59% of these New Age Negroes are going to vote in this next election, well then, change is all but a figment of our imagination.
So with all the success that African Americans have had in today's sports, schools, music, and even the impact that African Americans have had in today's culture, you still don't think things have changed at all?
Remember, brother, when you say things have changed, you're saying that old ways or habits can no longer take place. However, that's simply not the case. Some of the same difficulties that Negroes faced in my day, the New Age Negro, are still facing. The only difference is they don't spray us down with water hoses anymore. No, they spray us down with bullets and call it self-defense. But, to your point, we now see that some of the most influential people in this country are now Negroes. I think it is inspiring to see people like Sister Winfrey, or Brother James, or even a former street hustler, such as myself, turned rapper and Brother Carter, or as you all like to refer to him as Jay-Z. But if I may, with all of this influence, why have we yet to establish our own community that functions on its own resources? It seems as though we finally have individuals that can create real change, apart from those I mentioned, but have cautiously tried to do so. Why is that? I'll tell you why. The Negro has been conditioned to think that he needs the help of a white man rather than the help of his own kind. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that whites are bad, at least not all of them, which I've stated since my trip from Mecca long ago. And furthermore, it is not a case of good or bad blacks and whites. This is a case of good or bad human beings. But to the point I'm making, if I have the greatest athletes, or the greatest musicians, or even the most stylish and influential people, as you stated, then why wouldn't I want to start my own NFL, or my own music industry, or even my own NBA? We finally have leaders, or so-called black leaders, with billions of dollars that can create real change, but no one wants to build their own city for their own people with his own resources.
Doesn't that send a message of division rather than working together?
This is your interpretation of what I said. Working together is not a problem, but we must first learn to work together as a people before we can work together as a nation. Brother James in Cleveland seems to get it with his school, or even Brother Carter and Combs with ownership, black ownership, which translates to black dollars that we must funnel into our communities, into our schools, and to our businesses if we are to become powerful as a people. See, the problem is, no one questions a white man when he fulfills his mandate, but when a Negro attempts to fulfill his God-given right, they shoot him down like a dog in front of the world for the whole world to see. And I'm not just referring to a white man or police officers. No, I'm referring to the New Age Uncle Tom who chooses to kill his own kind. We lost a great man who not only sought to change his own life, but sought to do the very thing that I'm talking about today, and that's change his community. Nipsey Hussle. Nipsey Hussle was a man with vision to teach and build wealth within his own community. But we have been so brainwashed to devalue and hate ourselves to the point where we kill each other with no regard. It is one thing to point the finger at the other man, but it is another thing not to address the three fingers pointing back at ourselves. Well, I am here to tell you that fear must loose its grips on we. I sound like an old Baptist preacher.
That's a good point, Minister Malcolm. But wouldn't you agree that's easier said than done? The men that you mentioned are well off more than Americans, not just blacks. Take Brother Kaepernick, for example. To stand up for his people, he sacrificed his job just by taking a knee. What would you say to that?
Good. If that's all it took for him to see that the NFL could care less about him and his people, then I would have taken 2 knees and 2 elbows if I were him. I think Colin Kaepernick is one of the greatest examples of what it means to use your voice as an athlete in this country since my great friend Muhammad Ali. But if I may, with all of that, with young black boys still being gunned down by police in this country, with Colin Kaepernick taking a knee for injustice, we still have these new age Negroes playing for the same owners that have ostracized their brother and continue to support the NFL by tuning in every Sunday. I'm sure the two of you are familiar with an old phrase that the more things change, the more they remain the same.
Okay, if we could just change topics for a moment. I think I have an idea, but if you could just briefly share your thoughts on President Trump.
Well, I don't think anyone could briefly share their thoughts on number 45. Truth be told, people would probably expect me to say that I could care less to waste my breath on someone who has no interest in protecting black lives or no dignity or respect for women in this country. And I highly doubt that he could care less of what I have to say. But for the sake of decency, I pray that President Trump can see that his behavior has been one of the reasons why we see the split in our country. And by him taking inventory of himself, hopefully he will be the human being that we all hope for him to be. I think it is important to, as the young folk would say today, have some real ones in his cabinet to keep it 100.
Fair enough. Last question.
Him.
I'm sorry?
Let him ask the last question.
I guess if I had to ask the last thing, what's next, Minister Malcolm?
Love, brother. Love.
Thank you so much, Mr. Malcolm, for being here today.
Same. Forgive me, young brother, but remind me of your name.
Benjamin, but my friends call me Ben.
It was a pleasure to have met you, Ben.
The pleasure is mine, Minister Malcolm.
I'm prolific, so gifted. I'm the type that's gon' go get it, no kidding. Breaking down a switch in front of your building. Sitting on the steps, feeling no feelings. Last night it was a cold killing. You gotta keep the devil in his hole, nigga. But you know how it go, nigga. I'm front line every time it's on, nigga. 100 pro flow, running shoot pro. 458 drop, playing bulletproof soul. Every few shows I just buy some new gold. Circle got smaller, everybody can't go. Downtown Diamond District, jewelers like yo. Hustle, holla at me, I got Cubans on the low. Through the Cancun, smoking Cubans on the boat. Then dock that Tulum just to smoke. Look, listening to music at the Mayan ruins. True devotion on the